Our next guest collaborated with many talented folks to present a new original production based on the autobiography of Victor Torres. It's himself. He's joining us this morning. A former young gang member from Puerto Rico was forced to survive the very difficult streets of Brooklyn and back in 1962. And today, the Latin Ballet of Virginia is proud to present Victor, the True Spirit of Love. It opens on stage next month. We're going to enjoy a presentation in just a minute, but right now we're talking with Victor, and it's wonderful to see you. Thanks so much for coming in.
Well, Jessica, it's my pleasure to be on the show with you today.
Many folks are just meeting you for the first time right now. We've alluded to the fact that you had a very different life many years ago and overcame many challenges to be where you are today. It must seem like a lifetime ago that life existed for you.
Yeah, it is, but at the same time, because of the reality of what's happening today, gangs are stronger than ever, more powerful than ever. And of course, added to that is the crime life and drug addiction that goes along with that. So, it keeps me in time, in reality of what happened to me years ago that is happening today to so many young people.
Is it too complicated of a question to answer when I say, how did it happen? How did you fall into that life? How was that life introduced to you, and why was that the path that you took at that time?
Well, typically it's identity. You grow up in certain areas where you want to identify, just like any normal teenager. You want to identify with what's going on in your school, what's going on the streets where you hang out. And then suddenly you find yourself sunk into a culture that begins to control your life. And one thing led to the other. At the age of 12, I was already carrying a knife with me. I was part of a little clique. At the age of 12, I got into trouble for the first time because I pulled out the knife and I stabbed another young man.
At 12?
At the age of 12. And that started a life that changed me dramatically. And the next thing I know, I was running around with this little gang, and then that little gang became a big gang, and I was part of a major gang in New York City called the Roman Lords, which still exists in certain areas of New York. And at the age of 14, I joined the gang officially. And I started carrying what they call their colors. And so by the age of 18, I'd already been incarcerated 3 times.
Wow.
And got into a lot of troubles. And then I started using drugs and selling drugs and doing everything that life demands.
Fast forwarding a little bit, obviously those are major impacts on your life. And I think even as you're in that, you recognize this is not where I want to be. What was a turning point for you that made that start to change?
Yeah, there was a preacher that came to New York from the hills of Pennsylvania who he picked up a magazine and he saw the faces of 7 young men that were on trial for the murder of another gang member. And he felt a calling to go to New York and try to reach these boys. Well, he never reached those boys, but he reached me and he reached others like me. And he opened up a home, and he opened this home for young men like myself to come in and find a new life. And there, while I was withdrawing from drugs in that home, I had an experience with God. I just turned to God and I said, God, if I don't want to live this way no more. If it's true what this man is saying, change my life. And Christ came into my life, and from there on, I had a new outlook on life. I went back to school, went to college, met a wonderful girl in college, and then came to Richmond. Out of all the cities, I ended up in Richmond, Virginia, where we started an organization called New Life for Youth, reaching out to young men. And today also I'm a pastor here in Richmond, and our church is called New Life Outreach. We do a lot of community outreach. We help a lot of people, touch a lot of lives. New Life for Youth houses about 100 young men and young women that come right off the street, some of them from jail.
Yeah.
And we give them hope, because it's all about hope. You know, it's all about turning that new page.
We are so glad you're with us in Richmond and that you are doing that. We have about 30 seconds left. You've turned that new page. You're sharing that story of hope that's been shared in the pages of an autobiography, in a film, and we're going to see a presentation today in a collaboration with Latin Ballet of Virginia. How did that come to be?
Well, you know, Anna King knows my story. There is a movie of my life called Victor, like the book. And she felt in her heart to put it into a musical. And so here we are.
That's right.
In Richmond, Virginia. And I'm excited about it because I think it's really going to not just be enjoyable, but also it's going to speak to a lot of people.
Thank you for sharing your story with us and in this way. I'm really excited to see the performance. Victor, so nice to meet you.
Jessica, nice to meet you.
Pleasure being with you. The Latin Ballet of Virginia's latest offering, Victor, the True Spirit of Love, is coming to the stage September 7th through the 9th at the Grace Street Theater. On Friday, September 7th, the show begins at 7:30 p.m., Saturday at 3 p.m. and 7:30 p.m., and Sunday at 4 p.m. We'll post a link to all the details on our show website by early this afternoon, WTVR.com/VTN.